Good morning, all of you La La Landers out there in the American dreamland. It's Sunday, January 25th, 2026. We're out in the winter snow, and I'm out and about in the state of North Carolina, central North Carolina to be exact. And we're just checking out the conditions of the neighborhood. I've got the Jeep in four-wheel drive, few people out. It's been snowing and icing all morning here as it starts to accumulate. We've got a really crunchy, textured snow, which will turn to ice. That's what it looks like. It's 19 degrees according to my Jeep. And we're kind of rolling through the neighborhood. So we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to put ourselves, I'm going to go through the 5-paragraph order, or rather the orientation and then the situation portions. Now, I could go through a whole 5-paragraph order as I used to do in the Marine Corps, right? A frago. But we'll go through our orientation. So we've got the big snowstorm that's upon us in the east here, record temperatures in the state of North Carolina, record snowfall on its way up into the New England area. So people have been buckling down over the last couple of days. And of course, anytime there are big events like this, the media, of course, is going to push panic in the population. And so people go to the grocery stores and buy up all of their toilet paper, all of their wine. And now, I lived in Boston, Massachusetts for 9 years, and I used to go to Cape Cod and get snowed in with everybody, and we always had a really great time being snowed in, drinking your wine. And then after a couple of days, nobody's going to school, nobody works. After a couple of days, you come out and enjoy the winter wonderland, and you dig yourselves out, and it's a good time. Now, so people go and buy their toilet paper, people go and buy their wine, and the grocery store shelves go empty 3 days prior to this storm happening. You can actually hear water rattling around in my back seat here. All right, so I went and bought some water. I keep food on hand anyway. Now, I'm big into going to the grocery store. It's one of my favorite things to do, being at the grocery store. I pretty much go and buy fresh food every day. That's my way of continuing to eat healthy while not keeping too many things in my cupboards. I do have things stored away for events like this and so on and so forth, in the event that things were to hit the fan, so to speak. Anyway, so we have that going on. The price of silver as of Friday afternoon was approximately $103. You're only seeing the beginning of that, folks, as that price. Let that be an indicator. Even if you own silver, let it not be an indicator of the money that you've made. Let it be an indicator of the fraud and the deflation or devaluation or debasement of your currency. Let that be an indicator of the corruption of the system. Let it be an indicator of the leverage and the collateralization of our assets that have been used to speculate. And so all of these financial instruments that have been used over the decades to create new money, from fractional reserve lending to collateralized debt obligations to all of these things, let that price be an indicator of the inability of your public health organizations and agencies' inability to do their jobs, prevent disease in the populations, because that's essentially what's happened, which is why we find ourselves currently out of the World Health Organization. Don't you just love how one naturally flows and segues into the other? We go from silver to the World Health Organization in one smooth transition. So we leave the World Health Organization, and there's more to come with that as we understand that public health has failed. And if you think that was done unintentionally, you are in La La Land. And this is why I like to call people La La Landers out there in America. And I know because I was a part of that La La Land. And again, let's segue right into why that was. I'm going to tell a story about Jeremy Watts in La La Land, and it starts in 2008. This was the election between John McCain and Barack Obama. Growing up, I lived around a lot of conservative-minded people, although my mom and many other people in my family were open-minded and appreciated things that the other side of the aisle did. We had the likes of Jim Traficant, who was a Democrat in the great state of Ohio, who actually reached out across the aisle in Congress and was actually removed from Congress and thrown in jail for reasons that we can talk about another video. That would be a great video to do, because it does relate to what's going on now with Israel and the Zionist control of certain things, but we'll talk about that another time. So 2008 happens, and I was a John McCain supporter. I was in the middle of re-enlisting in the United States Marine Corps for my second enlistment, and he was a war hero. So he appealed to me and my identity, right? This is where identity can get the better of you, because for those who understand who John McCain was, he was part of the establishment, the bureaucratic establishment, the interconnected web of bureaucratic entities whose special interests subvert your constitutional rights and the will of the people. This is not democracy. This is more of a dictatorship or communism, and we'll talk about that another time. I can explain how through corporation, government has implemented control in all areas of our society, from agriculture to medical to entertainment and education, so on and so forth. We could talk about that another day. So in 2008, getting back, John McCain was very ridiculous. He was full of ridicule of Barack Obama, and Obama had a lot of appeal to me. Young guy, vibrant, was attracted, could easily attract with his speech the younger populations. I was 24, 25 years old at the time, and from where I came from, I was very open-minded to having a black president. And at that time, the way John McCain was behaving during the election, I decided to vote for Barack Obama. I supported Obama in 2008. I must take responsibility for that and own up to it. I did that. Now, we could fast forward. It wasn't but shortly after that you recognize that Barack Obama would go on to implement a lot of the policies for the police state and the surveillance state, the authoritarian, the autocracy, the technocracy. He would implement these same policies that George W. Bush created under the Patriot Act. All right, so Barack Obama, for example, not only did he bail out the big banks, all right, and people said we had to. We didn't have to do any of that. We needed things to fail. That's the only way to get rid of corruption, and then you hold people into account. None of those things happened. Barack Obama implemented those policies to transfer mass wealth to the banks and to special interests, and he would continue to do so. He would use government agencies. Number one, he created multiple government agencies for surveillance and the acquiring of mass data collection. This is your surveillance state. He militarized or utilized the militarized police. And ever since then, we have militarized the police even more. I love my people who go out with the intentions of serving their community, protect and serve. But we do realize at this point that our military, or rather our police, have been militarized, and it's easily used against people who oppose government rule of law, right? When you implement these policies and ICE goes out there and they're doing their job, people don't like that. I understand why, but at the same time, when you have open borders and you don't have an accountability, you can expect that these things are going to happen. And the last thing you want to do is go stand in between the mission and ICE officers who are geared up like they're about to invade Afghanistan again. What do you think's in those AR-15s? What do you think, those are blanks? What do you think, that body armor doesn't mean anything? these people will take you, and they will take your life. This is a fact. It's unfortunate. I don't like to see it. Now, I'm getting to that point. Barack Obama arrested more whistleblowers than any other president in the history of our country combined. He silenced dissidents, people coming clean and coming out with the fact that the U.S. government is actually conducting operations against its own people and using propaganda. This was the Smith and Munt Modernization Act of 2012. You can look into that. It gave government the authority to conduct, through corporate media, propaganda operations against the American public, during which time Barack Obama could use the media to cover his tracks of starting multiple wars abroad. Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, Syria, Libya, and yes, the Ukraine. For people who think that Russia started that war in the Ukraine, you've been misinformed. And there are people who are going to say, well, Jeremy, you've been misinformed. What do you know about anything? You've been misinformed. Now, all of these things happened by which tens of millions of people died. All right? And it opened our borders up significantly to the situation that we find ourselves in now. These people, yes, they're looking for stabilization in their lives. They had to leave their family. They had to leave their homes. Do you think those people wanted to leave their homes? No. They'd like to stay and be prosperous where they were born and raised, and then go and travel to America, what we call tourism, and see what America is all about. And if they like it, they can choose to live wherever they want in the world. You get your visas, you do all the appropriate administrative actions, and you come and live in America. And you do so with accountability. We have no accountability. Now, getting back, your taxpayer dollars funded ISIS and Al-Qaeda, the very terrorists who we were supposed to be fighting, who yours truly and others like me went, bled, sweat, and died to go protect other countries from, and it turns out we were funding them. That was a 2020 Senate finding that the Obama administration funded terrorism. It's a fact. You can look into it. This was Syria, and now you have an Al-Qaeda leader running Syria. So your taxpayer dollars went into funding terrorism that has led to the death and destruction of millions of people and their homes and their country, the implementation of a military state here and a surveillance state here. Remember, we create terrorism, use it in the Hegelian dialectic to create the Patriot Act laws, and then they're implemented for your safety against you. And it's used in media to perpetuate a storyline, a narrative by which you are emotionally triggered and your mind is controlled by. This is happening, ladies and gentlemen. Right? And so you see people really upset with ICE killing a civilian. It turns out that civilian or that protester was armed. What do you think these people are doing? Do you think they don't mean business? Your best way of engaging this situation is to learn about the deception that you are in, ladies and gentlemen. That's probably the most important thing I'll say in this video. The most important thing that you can do is arm yourself with an understanding. Collect your data, and be willing to collect a full data set that's unbiased. Meaning you're going to find data and information out there that does not pander to your identity. It's going to go against your belief system. But be willing to do that, to understand. You're going to have to arm yourself with that knowledge that allows you to develop a better understanding. And in that understanding, self-reflection can occur and you can grow. You learn to grow and manage your emotions more easily or with better efficiency. Why? Because you're living in truth. That's where the truth comes into play. You learn about yourself. You learn about how the system controls your emotions and thus your behavior is predicted. You safeguard yourself in that way. You learn to manage emotions. That's real truth. And as you do so, you start to see the manipulation, and one begins to wonder why it is that you're being manipulated. What's the purpose? What's the agenda? This is the Hegelian dialectic. It's for overall control of your mind, and thus your behavior can be predicted and control of your consumption occurs. You are an ultra consumer. Don't forget that. All right, you have access to excess, and that props your economy up. Even though we're not producing nearly what we used to in the United States of America, and we could go back to our trade agreements over time, and that being the reason why we outsourced all of our manufacturing and all of those things. Again, I reference Sir James Goldsmith in 1994. He gives an interview with Charlie Rose. It's on YouTube. Charlie Rose interviews James Goldsmith. Look into it. GATT, General Agreement for Tariffs and Trade, and what those policies from the Clinton administration did. We claim to be all about democracy. Hillary Clinton was not elected to be your Democratic representative. She was selected. Remember, they stole 11 states from Bernie Sanders during the primaries, and she became the Democratic nominee. She was selected to be. She was not elected. Kamala Harris, the same thing. She was selected by corporations. She was not elected by people. She was selected. And so all of these people claiming that we're trying to uphold democracy and not allow a king into office and these things, keep in mind your taxpayer dollars have been funding wars abroad that have led to the deaths of millions and millions of people. And it turns out it was not about freedom and democracy, ladies and gentlemen. 90% of the world's heroin comes from Afghanistan. And there was a huge increase in drug overdoses and bringing in drugs to our country. And we could blame it on China or whatever. That's not the case. Looking into the drug trade of the last 50 and 60 years, starting with the drug triangle or the golden triangle, which was Vietnam, Cambodia, and Southeast Asia. Who was responsible for that? Go watch the movie American Gangster, Frank Lucas. That's Denzel Washington. That's what that movie was about, and who actually is responsible for the drug trade in America. George Webb was very popular. There's a YouTube channel called Our Hidden History. Look into it. Find George Webb's videos in Our Hidden History, where they talk about their investigations of the infiltration of drugs into our society and its impact. If you're from where I'm from, many people where I'm from in Southeast Ohio, many friends, many brothers and sisters. As a matter of fact, my stepbrother died of a drug overdose, and many other people where I'm from have. And so it's had a significant impact on where I'm from, my old village that I grew up in Southeast Ohio. And so these all happened under Barack Obama's watch, and he was implementing government policy for a surveillance state. And so you see ICE, you'd better think of Barack Obama. This was Barack Obama's doing, and it was George W. Bush's doing. It's an agenda that runs from one president to another. And so the sooner you can wrap your mind around it, the better off you're going to be, the more in control of your emotions you're going to have over time. So keep this in mind. Share this with folks. Let the word be out there that the time has come to take responsibility for the way that we manage our emotions. Before you go and post online, keep in mind that you posting online is an indicator of your emotional responses to things that you don't fully understand. As smart as people are out there, I know people out there are really brilliant. They were smart in college and they went and got their degrees. That education is a cult in itself, because it was brought to you by the very same entities that have led to your downfall to begin with, and lack of understanding. Now, you might not understand me saying that, and you might get upset with me for saying that, but it's true. And I've had to be upset with myself over falling for that, because I consider myself to be a fairly smart person, even in my manipulated days. All right. And one way that I try to combat that is when I go online, I see things that I want to respond to, and I choose not to. I just make a decision that I'm not going to go and emotionally or impulsively respond. It's a good way to save your hormones for proper hormonal regulation when you really need it, like when you need to make decisions to take action towards your ideas and put your ideas into the event stream with action. Right? And so that's what we seek to do. We seek to control our own minds. So keep that in mind out there as we take a look in the neighborhood, just out and about, nice and easy. So I wish everyone a great Sunday. Stay safe out there for this big storm, and take care of yourself and one another.